You feel empty because you're trying to fill infinity with finite things. You poured success, love, recognition, everything into this vast space. And it disappears because the heart is not a vessel to be filled. It's an ocean without shore. The moment you stop trying to fill it, it begins to overflow. The emptiness you feel is not the absence of life. It is life inviting you to wake up. In this message, I want to help you understand why you feel empty, why you've been looking for fulfillment in all the wrong places. You will see that emptiness is not something to escape, but to enter. You will discover that what you've called loneliness is simply your soul calling you home. I'm not here to teach you how to fill the void. I am here to show you that the void itself is full. When you stop running from your inner silence, it turns into peace, and peace becomes awareness. You know that feeling. The quiet heaviness that comes even when everything seems fine. You have friends, work, goals. But when the lights go out and the noise fades, there's a space inside you that feels hollow, endless, unreachable. You keep thinking something is missing. So you fill it with people, with plans, with progress, and still that subtle ache remains. It's not depression, it's not failure. It's a misunderstanding. You've been taught that emptiness is bad, that silence is dangerous, that stillness is death. So you keep running, never realizing that the thing you're running from is the very source of your peace. And so, in this time together, I will take you into the heart of your emptiness. Not to escape it, not to heal it, but to see what it really is. We will explore why the human mind constantly feels something is missing, why fulfillment always fades, and how this constant chase keeps you asleep. You'll see how the feeling of emptiness is not a flaw, but a mirror reflecting your disconnection from your own being. I will guide you to sit in that silence, to see it, to touch it, to allow it, until you discover that what you've been calling emptiness is your doorway to awakening. And by the end of this talk, you'll understand that there's nothing wrong with feeling empty. It's the beginning of real freedom. You'll stop running from the void and begin to rest in it. And then, perhaps for the first time, you will know what it means to be truly alive. Here's something most people completely miss. You don't feel empty because something's missing from your life. You feel empty because you've lost touch with life itself. You've been taught to think that emptiness is a hole to fill. But emptiness is actually space, the sacred space where your being waits. The world has told you that silence means loneliness, that stillness means death, that the pause between your thoughts means something's wrong. So you built your entire life trying to escape that space. You filled every quiet moment with noise, every stillness with movement, every breath with distraction. But no matter how much you fill it, that emptiness remains because it isn't a hole, it's a message. This is the part most people don't understand. Your emptiness is not a punishment, it's a signal. It's existence calling you back home. The ache you feel inside, that quiet hum of longing that never goes away. It's not asking for more from the world. It's asking for you. The mind keeps telling you, if I can just get this, achieve that, find someone, go somewhere, buy something. But that voice is the very thing keeping you from what you seek. You've been so busy trying to escape your own stillness that you've forgotten it's where life begins. Look around. From childhood, you've been taught to fill every space. When a child sits silently, Parents worry. When a student stares out the window, the teacher scolds him for daydreaming. When an adult sits alone without plans, society calls him lazy or lost. Nobody tells you that stillness is sacred. Nobody tells you that doing nothing may be the most alive thing you can do. So you grow up equating busyness with meaning, motion with purpose, activity with value. You begin to fear silence because silence reveals how empty your activity truly is. The truth is, your emptiness is not against you. It's your forgotten depth. You've buried it under endless doing. You've buried it beneath the noise of the world. But that space you call empty is the place where love, creativity, and peace are born. Without it, life becomes mechanical. All noise, no music. Silence is the canvas upon which existence paints its colors. Without that blankness, nothing beautiful can appear. There's an old story I often tell. A man inherited a piece of land with a deep well on it. The well had been abandoned for years, and everyone in the village said it was dangerous. So he filled it with dirt, rocks, and garbage, believing he was protecting others. Years passed, and the well was forgotten. But one summer, when the drought came and the rivers dried, he remembered. Out of desperation, he began digging again. Days passed, sweat poured, and finally, when the dirt was cleared, water burst forth. Clear, cool, alive. The well had never been dangerous. The danger was in forgetting its depth. That's what you've done. You filled your inner well with the debris of the world. Other people's voices, fears, ambitions, expectations. You've called it protection, maturity, progress. And now you feel empty because you can no longer feel the living water that was always there. The work isn't to fill yourself. It's to dig, to clear the noise, to remove what doesn't belong. Beneath all your striving and fear and distraction, there is something alive, vast, silent, whole. You call it emptiness because you've forgotten how to listen. Modern life feeds on this forgetting. The entire world is designed to keep you distracted. Infinite screens, constant notifications, never-ending goals. It tells you to stay busy, to keep moving, to make something of yourself. But this is the greatest tragedy. The more you chase, the further you run from the one thing that was never missing, your own being. You've mistaken motion for growth, noise for meaning, consumption for love. That's why no matter how much you achieve, a subtle hollowness remains. Because you can't fill a spiritual hunger with material food. You can't fix inner absence with outer abundance. If you listen carefully, you'll notice that emptiness is not lifeless. It's alive with potential. It's not darkness. It's space waiting to be illuminated. It's not death. It's the womb of all creation. You were born from it. Every thought, every emotion, every act arises out of that silent space and returns to it. Without that nothingness, there would be no you, no world, no life. The tragedy is that you've been taught to fear your own source. Society doesn't know how to deal with someone who's comfortable in stillness. It fears the one who doesn't need to be entertained, who doesn't depend on validation, who doesn't keep running toward the next thing. Because such a person can't be controlled. They can't be sold happiness. They already have it. That's why silence has been labeled dangerous. That's why you were told emptiness is a void. It's not a void. It's your vastness. So if you feel empty, don't run. Don't grab your phone. Don't call someone. Don't reach for food or distraction. Sit with it. Let it ache. let it whisper. Let it speak. You'll discover that your emptiness isn't the absence of meaning. It's the presence of truth. It's existence creating space for you to awaken. You spend so long fearing this space that you've never stopped to see what it contains. Look again. That emptiness you've been running from is where all your fullness will come from. The silence you avoid is the very music your soul is longing to hear. Once you see that emptiness is not your enemy, you begin to relax into it. The fear starts to fade. The tension softens. You begin to feel a strange peace, even in your aloneness. And that's when the next challenge appears, the mind. Because the mind has built habits of running, and it doesn't stop easily. The moment you relax, it whispers, do something, think something, fix something. But to truly face your emptiness, you must first understand that whisper, the ancient game of escape. Here's something that might shock you. You don't actually suffer from emptiness. You suffer from the constant attempt to escape it. The pain you call emptiness is not in the silence itself. It's in your resistance to it. The mind has become so addicted to movement, so entangled in doing, so dependent on distraction, that when stillness appears, it panics. It starts shouting, something's wrong. Do something, think, fix. You see, the ego cannot survive silence. The moment you stop running, it starts trembling, because its whole existence depends on your restlessness. The ego is nothing but accumulated motion, the leftover energy of your endless chase. Without that chase, it dies. So what does it do? It creates new escapes. It disguises running as healing, searching, growing, achieving. It says, I will meditate to find peace. I will do yoga to find balance. I will serve others to feel whole. And yet, all of this remains an escape. Because the I who is doing these things is the same I who is terrified of just being. You can decorate your prison cell with the most spiritual wallpaper, but it's still a prison. You can polish your chains and call it self-improvement, but the chains remain. That's how cunning the mind is. It turns even your desire for freedom into another cage. The game of escape has many forms. Some run outward into relationships, possessions, accomplishments. Others run inward into meditation techniques, prayers, philosophies. But whether you chase pleasure or enlightenment, it's the same chase. The direction changes, but the runner remains. And as long as the runner exists, the emptiness persists. You've tried to fill the void with everything: love, success, adventure, spirituality. And nothing works, because the void isn't asking to be filled. It's asking to be seen. You can't fill space. You can only recognize it as space. There's an old story I tell often. A man dying of thirst came upon a desert lake shimmering in the distance. He rushed toward it, desperate. But the closer he came, the further it seemed. His feet burned. His throat cracked. Yet he ran harder until finally he collapsed, exhausted. As he lay dying in the sand, he realized there was no lake at all. Only the reflection of the sky in his own eyes. That's what the chase is. Every time you think you're moving closer to fulfillment, you're chasing a mirage. And the mirage is made of your own longing. Here's the irony. The more you run from emptiness, the stronger it grows. The more you try to fill it, the larger it becomes, because running is feeding it. Every act of avoidance gives it more power. You think you're escaping it, but you're only expanding it. Just like a man who keeps digging to bury his fear and ends up building a grave too deep to climb out of. The solution isn't to dig faster, it's to stop digging. Have you noticed how silence frightens you? The moment the noise stops, the conversation ends, the music fades, the phone battery dies, a subtle anxiety arises. You rush to fill the gap. You turn on a screen, scroll, eat, talk, think, anything to avoid the pause. Because in that pause, the mind starts to disappear and you start to feel something unfamiliar, yourself. That's the fear. You're not afraid of emptiness. You're afraid of meeting yourself in it. But the truth is, silence isn't the enemy. It's detox. The noise you hear when you first stop running isn't punishment. It's purification. It's like the body releasing toxins after years of poisoning. At first it feels worse. Dizziness, nausea, discomfort. You think you're dying, but you're actually healing. The mind too must pass through its detox. When you sit quietly, all the thoughts you've suppressed start to surface. The regrets, the desires, the fears, they rise like bubbles in still water. And your first instinct is to run again. You tell yourself, I can't handle this. But if you stay, if you simply watch, something miraculous happens. The thoughts begin to lose power, they dissolve. Because what you watch consciously cannot control you. This is why I say awareness is the end of the game. The moment you see the pattern, you're free from it. The mind's whole strategy depends on your unconsciousness, on your identification with it. The moment you step back and see, this is the mind escaping again, the game loses its player. You don't need to stop the mind from escaping. You only need to see that it is escaping. That very seeing is the beginning of freedom. And once you stop running, something you've never experienced before begins to happen. You start to feel light directly. Not through goals, not through achievements, not through desires, but through pure presence. You start to taste the silence that has always been here. Underneath the noise, the mind says, this silence is emptiness. But awareness whispers, no, this silence is fullness. What you thought was a void turns out to be vastness. What you feared as absence becomes the presence of everything. Let me tell you a simple story. A bird was born in a small cage, and it learned to sing in that cage. Every day it sang and dreamed of the open sky, never knowing it was trapped. One day the door was left open. For the first time, the bird could fly, but it didn't. It clung to the familiar perch. The cage was small, but it was safe. The sky was infinite, but it was unknown. You are that bird. You've become comfortable in your cage of noise, activity, and thought. Freedom is available, but silence feels too vast, too terrifying. And yet, the moment you take flight, the cage disappears. Not because it breaks, but because you finally see it was never locked. That's what happens when you stop running. At first, fear, then discomfort, then suddenly flight. When you stop escaping, the emptiness you feared turns into wings. You realize it was never the absence of meaning, but the presence of space. The space to breathe, to rest, to simply be. The game of escape ends the moment you stop playing. You don't have to win it. You don't have to walk away. Let the mind chase. Let it spin. You just watch. Stay still. Breathe. you'll see that the runner and the chased were never separate. They were both illusions born from fear. When awareness dawns, the entire game collapses. What remains is silence, infinite, alive, effortless. Once you stop running, you begin to see that emptiness is not the absence of life. It is the presence of awareness. It was never against you. It was life trying to call you back home. And now that you've stopped, you can finally listen. But now comes the next step. What do you do with this silence? How do you rest in it without falling into despair or numbness? That's the art. That's the doorway to awakening itself. What I am about to tell you may sound paradoxical, but truth often is. You don't need to escape your emptiness, and you don't need to fix it. You don't even need to fill it. You only need to rest in it, to rest in the very space you've spent your whole life running from. This is not resignation. It is revelation. Because the moment you stop fighting what is, you begin to feel what has always been. When you rest inside the silence, it begins to show its true face, not darkness, not absence, not lack, but peace. The emptiness you once feared starts to soften, like ice melting into water. And beneath it, you discover something alive, something vast, something that doesn't need anything to complete it. But the mind resists this resting. It spent lifetimes trying to do, to solve, to move, to control. So when you suddenly stop, it panics. It tells you this is lazy, this is pointless, this is dangerous. The mind cannot comprehend being without doing. And yet being is where life flows from. It's the ground of all movement. The tree grows, the river flows, the sun rises, not through effort but through being. Existence moves from stillness, not toward it. You too are meant to live this way, not from tension but from trust. When you rest in emptiness, at first it feels strange, like entering a room you've never been in before. There's a discomfort because all your familiar noises are gone. It's like standing in a vast cathedral after a lifetime spent in crowded markets, overwhelming in its quiet. Your mind starts asking, what now? But stay. Stay a little longer. Don't rush to make meaning. Don't reach for distraction. Just be. Slowly, something begins to change. You start to notice subtle sounds, the rhythm of your breath, the faint pulse in your chest, the hum of life itself. What seemed like emptiness begins to pulse with presence. Emptiness is not empty. It's pregnant with life. It's the womb of existence, holding infinite possibilities in stillness. You were born from it. Every moment arises from it. Every thought, every breath, every heartbeat, all come and go in this infinite silence. To rest in it is to come home to the source. When you sit quietly and stop interfering, this space begins to reveal itself as peace. Not peace as a concept or an achievement, but as your natural state. The peace that has no opposite, that no storm can disturb. Once you touch this peace, even for a moment, something irreversible begins. You start to see how everything you've ever called noise or problem is just movement on the surface. Beneath it, silence remains untouched, just as the sky remains unchanged by storms. Your being remains untouched by the movements of thought and emotion. When you realize this, you no longer try to control life. You no longer cling to happiness or resist sadness. You allow everything, joy, sorrow, confusion, clarity, to move through you. You remain the witness, watching the play of existence unfold like waves rising and falling on the ocean. This witnessing is meditation. Not a method, not a ritual, not an effort. True meditation begins when all methods fall away. You've been told to breathe in a certain way, to repeat mantras, to sit still, to do this or that. But meditation is not something you do. It's what you are when you stop doing. When the doer disappears, awareness remains. That awareness is the still flame at the center of all motion. It is consciousness resting in itself, effortless, eternal, whole. Let me tell you a story. A disciple once came to a master and said, "I have been meditating for 30 years and still I cannot find peace." The master looked at him and laughed. "That's because you are looking for peace. Like a man looking for his glasses while they are on his nose. Peace isn't something to find. It's something to stop losing." The disciple frowned, confused. "How do I stop losing it?" The master said, "By stopping the search." And in that moment, the disciple fell silent, truly silent for the first time in his life. And tears began to fall. He realized that the search itself was the problem, that every step toward peace had been a step away from it. This is what I mean by resting in emptiness. You cannot arrive there by effort, because effort belongs to the mind. The mind can climb mountains, but being is the sky, infinite, unmovable, everywhere. You cannot climb the sky. You can only open your eyes and see that it was always there. At first, when you rest in silence, the mind may shout louder. It may bring up old memories, unhealed pains, forgotten desires. Don't resist, don't interpret, don't analyze. Just watch. Awareness is like sunlight. It doesn't need to fight darkness. It simply shines and darkness disappears on its own. The same is true of thought, fear, pain. When you observe without judgment, without trying to change anything, a great alchemy happens. The energy of suffering transforms into clarity. The noise becomes music. The emptiness becomes fullness. And this is the miracle. When you stop running from emptiness, it begins to overflow. You find that peace is not passive. It's vibrant, alive, creative. Out of that silence, love begins to rise. Out of that stillness, compassion blossoms. Out of that emptiness, life itself pours forth. Because what you thought was void was actually infinite potential, waiting to express itself through you. The sculptor doesn't add stone to make a statue. He removes what doesn't belong. In the same way, awakening is not about gaining something new, but removing. Everything falls, the noise, the fear, the constant urge to fill the space. When the unnecessary falls away, what remains is you, the pure awareness behind all form. Meditation is simply being that awareness, watching, allowing, not resisting, not clinging, just resting as the witness of all that arises. When you do this, even briefly, life begins to unfold with a new rhythm. You stop being a participant lost in the play and become the silent watcher who can enjoy the entire theater. You start to live from the center instead of the surface. And soon, you realize that even this resting is not something you must maintain. It maintains itself. Awareness doesn't need your effort to exist. It only needs your permission to be seen. Once you see it clearly, once you touch that silent space within, you understand that nothing has ever been missing. The emptiness was never empty. It was fullness without form. So rest in your emptiness. Let it cradle you. Let it breathe for you. Let it wash through you like a river returning to the sea. Because in truth, you were never separate from that sea. You were just a wave dreaming it was alone. And when you rest deeply enough, the wave remembers it is the ocean. The seeker remembers it is the sought. The emptiness remembers it is everything. When emptiness turns into peace, love begins to overflow. Because love is the natural fragrance of awareness. And now that fragrance begins to rise. Now something extraordinary begins to unfold. The moment you stop fighting your emptiness, it starts to reveal its true nature. What you thought was a barren desert becomes a hidden garden. What you call loneliness begins to shimmer with the light of connection. What once felt like a cold, endless void starts to feel alive, vibrating, sacred. You start to sense a fullness rising from within, not the kind of fullness that comes from possession or success or even love from another, but a fullness that needs no reason. A fullness that simply is. You see, emptiness was never empty. It was only misunderstood. It was never a lack. It was a space. And space is where everything happens. It's where the stars are born, where music moves, where love breathes. Without space, nothing could exist. And the space within you, the silence you were taught to fear, is the same infinite field that holds the entire cosmos. When you meet your emptiness with acceptance instead of avoidance, it transforms. What was once heavy becomes light. What was once frightening becomes familiar. It's as if your heart, once tightly closed in protection, slowly begins to open petal by petal, and a fragrance begins to flow out of it. Not because you tried to make it bloom, but because that's what hearts do when they are no longer afraid. Love begins to rise. But not love as you have known it before. Not the love that comes from need or desire or fear of being alone, but a love that is quiet, effortless, unconditional. A love that doesn't ask for anything, doesn't cling, doesn't demand. It simply radiates. This love isn't something you do. It's something you become when you stop pretending to be anything else. When you drop the roles, the masks, the endless striving to be worthy, love emerges on its own. It's your natural state. It's the fragrance of awareness. When the mind is silent, when the being is still, love overflows because there's nothing left to contain it. It spills out of you without intention, without control, like sunlight pouring from the sun. And just as the sun doesn't decide whom to shine on, your love too becomes directionless, objectless. You no longer love someone. You simply love. At first, this may feel strange, even unsettling, because for your whole life, you've known love as dependency, as need, as exchange. I love you if you love me. I give if you give. I stay if you stay. That's not love. That's business. That's two wounded people trying to heal each other with the same wound. Real love happens only when the wound disappears. When you are no longer empty, you no longer seek to fill yourself through another. You share because you are overflowing. You don't give to get. You give because there's too much beauty inside you to hold. It's like the sun. It doesn't shine to impress the sky or to earn applause from the flowers. It shines because shining is its nature. When you are whole, love becomes like that. You don't need to find it. You need to stop blocking it. You need to stop believing that love comes from outside you. The love you've been chasing in others is the echo of your own heart calling you home. When you stop chasing, you begin to hear the original song. And then something subtle but profound happens. What you once called loneliness turns into solitude. Loneliness is the ache of running from yourself. Solitude is the joy of finding yourself. In loneliness, you long for another. In solitude, you long for nothing. In loneliness, the silence feels empty. In solitude, the same silence feels full. It's not that the outer world changes. It's that your inner eyes open. You begin to see that you were never truly alone. Even in your solitude, the whole existence accompanies you. The wind that moves through the trees, the stars that sparkle in the night, the pulse of your own heartbeat, all of it is life whispering, I am here. There was once a hermit who lived high in the mountains. People would ask him, don't you get lonely up here? And he would laugh and say, lonely? How can I be lonely when I am with everything? He wasn't being poetic. He was describing the truth. Because when you drop the illusion of separation, when you stop seeking outside and start listening within, you realize you're not a person in the universe. You are the universe appearing as a person. The same energy that moves the stars moves through your breath. The same silence that holds galaxies holds your awareness. How can you ever be empty when existence itself beats within you? And yet, this realization doesn't make you proud. It makes you humble. You no longer feel like the center of the world. You feel like a wave in an endless ocean, moving, dissolving, reforming, dancing in rhythm with something vast and eternal. That humility brings a new kind of joy. Not the excitement of possession, but the serenity of belonging. You no longer ask, who am I? Because you see that the one who was asking was the dream. The wave doesn't need to know the ocean. It is the ocean. When you reach this point, even the word emptiness starts to disappear. What remains is fullness, not the fullness of accumulation, but the fullness of being. You realize that your longing was never for things or people or experiences. It was for yourself. For this feeling of aliveness, this wholeness that needs nothing. You wake up in the morning and everything, even the smallest thing, glows with quiet wonder. A drop of rain on the window, the sound of a bird, the smell of the earth after rain, all of it feels holy. The world hasn't changed. You have. The same emptiness that once made you restless now makes you grateful. And then life becomes simple, not simpler, simple. You eat when you are hungry. You rest when you're tired. You love when love moves through you. You no longer overthink, overplan, overcontrol. The flow of existence becomes your rhythm, and you, with it effortlessly. You don't try to dominate life. You let it dance through you. You no longer struggle to be somebody. You become nobody. And in being nobody, you become everything. There's a joy in that nothingness. A joy that has cause, no objects, no opposites. It's not the joy of success because it doesn't depend on winning. It's not the joy of pleasure because it doesn't depend on stimulation. It's the joy of being alive, of breathing, of simply existing. You start to understand why the sages laugh without reason, why the enlightened smile for no apparent cause. Their laughter is not about something, it's from something. From the fullness that comes when you stop seeking. When emptiness becomes fullness, seeking ends. You no longer live to get somewhere. You live because living itself is divine. You act, but your action is play. You love, but your love is prayer. You rest, but your rest is worship. You no longer chase meaning because life itself has become meaning. And now you can see the emptiness was never your enemy. It was your teacher. It stripped away everything false so that you could see what was real. It took you through the desert so that you could appreciate the oasis. It burned away all your illusions so that you could finally touch the infinite. When emptiness becomes fullness, the search ends. You live in the world, but the world can no longer take away your peace, because peace was never something the world could give you. It was what you were all along. When the emptiness finally turns into fullness, something profound begins to happen. You start to wake up from the greatest dream of all, the dream of separation. You begin to see that you were never a drop in the ocean. You were the ocean dreaming it was a drop. All your life, you have felt like an isolated wave rising, falling, afraid of disappearing. But the ocean never goes anywhere. It only changes form. This realization doesn't come like a lightning bolt or a loud revelation. It comes quietly like dawn, slow, steady, golden, until suddenly the night of separation fades, and you see that everything has always been one continuous breath. This awakening is not about believing in unity. It's about seeing it. Belief still belongs to the mind, and the mind loves to divide me and you, right and wrong, light and dark, God and world. But awareness sees no opposites. It sees that the bird flying in the sky, the wind moving the leaves, the one watching it all, they are not three things, but one movement. The wave doesn't fight the ocean's tide. It is the tide. The tree doesn't resist the wind. It dances with it. When you wake up, you stop trying to control life, because you realize you are life. For so long, you've thought of life as something happening to you. Things coming and going, people appearing and disappearing, circumstance rising and falling, and you stood in the middle trying to manage it all. But that separation was only a dream. In truth, life is happening through you. The same intelligence that makes the stars burn and the flowers bloom is breathing through your lungs, beating your heart, moving your hands. When you move, existence moves. When you breathe, existence breathes. There was never a you separate from it. Only the illusion of an observer, a shadow that mistook itself for the light. To wake up is to see that the emptiness and the fullness are the same thing. Two sides of one reality. Emptiness is the space. Fullness is the energy within it. One cannot exist without the other. The mind, in its limited perception, calls the dance of opposites conflict. But awareness calls it harmony. When you awaken, you no longer say, this is good, that is bad. You say this too is part of the whole. Pain and pleasure, joy and sorrow, creation and destruction, all are movements of the same infinite song. You stop fighting with what is and you begin to listen. The irony is that you never really wake up. You simply stop dreaming. The dream was that you were separate, that you were a mind trapped inside a body, living in a world of others, surrounded by forces beyond your control. The dream was full of striving, fear, guilt, and longing. And then one day, the dream dissolves, not because you made an effort, but because the effort exhausted itself. You finally grow tired of pretending, tired of seeking, tired of being somebody. And in that tiredness, in that surrender, you fall into yourself and realize you were never lost. A Zen master once said, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The words are simple, but the meaning is vast. Life doesn't change after awakening. What changes is your vision. You still walk, eat, laugh, cry, work, sleep. But now, everything happens in a deep rhythm of peace. You no longer feel that you are doing anything. Everything is being done through you, as you. The same action that once came from effort now flows from grace. The same silence that once frightened you now becomes your home. You become a witness, not a cold, distant observer, but a loving, intimate presence. You watch life unfold like waves touching the shore. Each wave perfect in its rise and fall, each moment complete in itself. There's no longer any need to grasp or resist, because the one who grasped and resisted has vanished. You see the futility of clinging to any moment when you yourself are the river flowing through them all. You stop asking, how long will this peace last? Because there's no one left to lose it. Peace doesn't come and go. It's what you are when you stop chasing the changing, and then something even more beautiful happens. Compassion blossoms effortlessly, because once you see that you are not separate, the suffering of others is no longer their suffering, it's your own. You see a beggar on the street and feel the same wind touching your face, touching his. You hear a child laugh and it echoes in your chest. You see someone angry and you recognize your own forgotten wounds in their voice. Compassion no longer comes from pity or morality. It comes from oneness. You don't help because you should. You help because it's natural. The left hand doesn't hesitate to bandage the right when it bleeds. That's how an awakened heart moves, without thought, without effort, without pride. When you live this way, fear begins to vanish. Because fear can only exist when you see yourself as separate from death, from loss, from change. But when you see that all things are part of the same eternal dance, even death loses its sting. You see it not as an ending, but as a transformation. One wave dissolving so another may rise. The flower withers, but the fragrance lingers. The body falls, but life continues. You stop clinging to permanence because you finally see that impermanence is perfection. And then you can live in the world without being of it. You can love deeply without attachment, give fully without expectation, act completely without control. You can laugh without reason, cry without shame, and sit in silence without boredom. Life becomes play. The seriousness of the seeker, the tightness of the doer, the anxiety of the achiever, all melt away. You move like the wind-free, invisible, ungraspable. You are not in life. You are life. You are not the experiencer. You are experience itself. You are not a fragment of the divine. You are the whole expressing itself as a momentary form, dancing for a while before merging back into silence. This realization doesn't make you special. It makes you simple. You walk softly, speak gently, love without possession, and live without resistance. And when you wake up in the morning, the same sun that rose yesterday shines brighter. Not because it changed, but because your eyes have. You see that the emptiness you once feared was never absence. It was infinite presence, waiting for you to stop running. You've been trying to escape emptiness now, knowing it was existence calling you back home. But now, the escape has ended. Silence has become your companion. Stillness has become your home. Being has become your prayer. And from here, everything is worship. Every breath, every step, every heartbeat, every silence, you have awakened not to something new, but to what has always been. You are finally home. And the home was always here, in this very emptiness you once called lonely.